Vecchio. Hi, dear. Are you going to be in Orlando for We Don't Die Orlando in about 6 or 8 weeks? Okay, so I'm going to be presenting, and I'll mention this again once we go to 2 o'clock. But I'm going to be speaking and presenting my research on precipitation. So you're going to miss a truly gorgeous presentation of all my artifacts and things like that. Hi, Karen Harris. Good to see you. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm really appreciative of Sandra giving me the opportunity to share. Thank you, Vivian. I tell you, I struggled yesterday. I must have spent 6 hours, I'm not kidding, testing out different kinds of software with my computer, with trying to get it to work. I couldn't get it to work. And finally, I found a button on YouTube that said webcam. I thought, okay, let's try that. It worked. So keep it simple, right? Good. So we're just waiting for a few more. I'm going to start right at 2 o'clock. I hope your week has been awesome. Mine's been pretty busy. I've already I had a business spiritual reading this morning that I did for a young woman, and that went really well. And then this evening I have a trance circle that I'm going to in Lake Worth, Florida at the United Metaphysical Churches. The United Metaphysical Church of the Palm Beaches. And that's with Reverend Justin Terry, and that is a fantastic. It is the highest caliber of trance channeling mediumship that really exists in South Florida that I'm aware of. And he is 100% unconscious. You get direct answers from your guides and teachers. Once in a while, even your higher self, which is odd. I've seen that before. Or even a loved one who might have committed suicide or passed away earlier than we expected. And but anyway, I go every month. Hi, Lisa Bovard. Lisa, one of my seminarians. Great to see you. So we're just waiting just a couple of more minutes, and then we'll begin. We'll start talking. I'm sure I've got everything ready for you guys. And just begin to type your questions. If you have any questions about precipitation, I want you to begin putting those in the chat field so that I can go through those whenever the time is right. Okay, I want to make sure I answer all of your questions. Unfortunately, I don't have the technology to actually show my artifacts and all of my cards. I haven't figured that out, let's just say. That's the next step. Got to find a millennial or a teenager to help me, right? A couple of more minutes. I'm just trying to post a link up to Instagram so that other people can join us. Let me see if I can find my thing. Oh, this is how we do it. Add to my story. Can I add to my story? Oh, here it is. Let's try that.
Hi, everyone. It's Reverend Kevin Lee. Listen.
Okay, so that went up to my story. Hopefully people join us. Beautiful. All right, so we have a few joining us today. Hi, everyone. So if you are 1, 2, 3, 4 people, I see about 3 people who may or may not be at their computer. We'll probably have a few more pop in. And we'll spend probably 45 minutes to an hour, as long as you're interested, talking about precipitation. Hi, Mark Pluckin. I know your name. Where do I know you from? Aha, perfect. Okay. Well, welcome. We're going to start just in a minute or two. Hey, Don St. Jules. Hi, good to see you. I wish you were in Fort Lauderdale. We'd go have dinner. How's the weather up in Canada, Don? Oh, hi, Sydney. Hi, Sue. California's in the house. New Jersey, California. The weather sucks. Well, it's got to be cold, but it's not 95 degrees and humid like you remember in Fort Lauderdale. Good to see you guys. Good, good, good. I think we're about ready to start. Yes, it's 2 o'clock, so let me turn my timer off. Stop that. Jump back in. Joan Adams, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So remember, you guys, I want you to start thinking about your questions. Anything about precipitation or any strange experiences you might have had where you think it might be precipitation. And some people confuse, we're going to talk about it, spirit art versus or psychic art versus precipitation. So we'll talk about that. But just put your situations in the chat field and we'll touch base with that. So I want to welcome you guys to really my first effort to get on YouTube Live and start serving the people, my family of subscribers. And I put this together because I really just wanted to open the door of introduction to the concept of precipitation mediumship, which is really a process, a very rare form of mediumship. It's actually been going on for a couple of thousand years as gifts of the Spirit Church. I see who's on, Sid. I see that he's well aware of as well. And this phenomena takes place because of the power, the life force, or the ectoplasm of the medium, right? The individual who has this excess of ectoplasmic life force. And so spirit will take that life force and will actually begin to extract it from the body, wrap it around a sacred container. It's what I call it. This is my sacred container, as you can see. And I bought it at a World Trade Market, okay? And it's just beautiful, very elegant. And then on the inside, you can see that it's lined with felt, right? And that just makes sure that any light doesn't creep through the sides. Now, what you don't see is that this is actually, this is lotus reed, Egyptian lotus reed, which I thought was highly symbolic. And on the inside, you may not be able to hear it, but it sounds like a shoebox. And we'll talk about shoeboxes in a minute if you're interested in starting this phenomena. And as you look inside, you can see that I have all these colors, okay? So I have all this. I have crayons, pencils, Sharpies, markers. I thought I had lipstick because someone gave me lipstick to try. So I threw that in there, but it's not, I don't see it right now. Must still be on the shelf. I have a pastel. Okay, those are very oily. And I even have a piece of charcoal, like writing lead, and big markers, all kinds of fun things in here. So just throw stuff in there. I even have, you'll find this interesting. See if you can see it. I took a piece of wrapping paper. Can you see how shiny and metallic, and also it actually has colors. It's opalescent. I think you can probably see that, okay? And so I told Spirit, let's get it up closer. Yeah, kind of, sort of. Anyway, you can tell. So I told Spirit, I want you to mimic this and try to incorporate this technology into my cards. Hadn't happened yet, but I'm affirming, right? So that's what I do. And so these colors are important because for precipitation to take place, you need pigment, right? You need color. In the Bible, there is a verse in the book of Daniel, chapter 5, verse 5, and it talks about a hand materialized and wrote upon, it didn't say materialized, it says appeared, in the temple, and it wrote upon the wall in a strange and foreign tongue. So where did the pigment come from that this hand materialized and began to write on a wall? This is a form of spirit writing, 1. It is a form of materialization of spirit, 2. But there had to have been some type of a precipitation of the pigment to occur. So I call it precipitation as well. And so the pigment most likely came from flowers, probably vegetable skins or root, maybe vegetables, fruits, things like that. Could have come from the tapestries that were probably dyed with vegetable and fruit dyes. And so that's probably where the color came from, and then appeared on the wall to create a writing. Okay, it was actually a warning to the king. He was about to die in 24 hours, which was interesting. You will see, I doubt you will be able to see this very well. Let me see if I can find something bright and colorful. There's a couple of them. These are my gel pens. I highly recommend that you guys get gel pens if you're interested in developing this phenomena. Let's see if this will do it. Okay, as you look into the pens, you can see if I can turn it, you can see that the ink has disappeared on the inside. Can you see that? Look at the orange. You can see that over here that there is a silicone gel plug with a little bit of pigment right at that end. And then on this end, you can see that there's just a little bit of ink left in the pen. And then as you look up at the others, you can see that there are bubbles of pigment that has disappeared. And that's because the pigments are being dematerialized from these colors, right? My coloring media, and they're being taken into spirit, and then spirit through spirit mind, through the mind principle, because there's no death, right? The mind continues, they're still conscious. And so they basically reorganize these pigments, and then they bring them back and rematerialize them. And they rematerialize them onto what I use, which are small 3-inch by 5-inch index cards. These are blank white index cards. Okay, I have a little stack of them. I probably have about 10 here, all bunched up together. I wouldn't have more than that when you begin. You don't want a lot of busyness because the problem with that is it will be too much. You don't want to fill your container full of pigments. You don't want to fill it with tons of crayons and markers. You just want a handful, okay, to get started. And then maybe a very small handful, maybe 10 of these. You're going to be checking them every time, either after every time you sit for about 20 or 30 minutes. Maybe you're sitting and developing your trance. Always have your sacred container in your lap. And you want to check your cards for any precipitation. About a month ago, I was in Alicante, Spain. And we sat, there were about 15 of us, and I did not bring my basket with me, but I decided to enter trance and hold the energy of precipitation for the group of individuals that had been sitting in this development circle as mediums for probably a year or more. And really within about 20 minutes of my entering an altered state, allowing my energy to blend with all the sitters that were there, the 15 people, I came out of trance and I could feel the energy was complete. We opened all of their shoe boxes because I recommend just go get a shoe box. You don't need something this fancy. I probably spent $20, $30 for this. It is very pretty, but you don't have to do that. I know a lot of young mediums who have started with shoe boxes, who have started with small containers, maybe a plastic container. You just want to make sure that this container is light proof. You see how there's all this woven natural material? Now, this is all woven and glued on top of a shoebox, that type of a cardboard container. So no light is going to get in here, but I have a lid that actually has a lip, if you can see that. And the lip prevents any light from getting inside. There's a barrier inside to prevent light. If you have a basket, for instance, say a Native American woven basket where light could penetrate through the weaves, you want to put on the inside, maybe, why don't you glue in some black felt or maybe a dark blue felt, something dark in color, and it's going to be very light absorbing, okay? And you want to make sure that it's all on the inside and also on the lid so that no light can creep through any of these little woven pieces, okay? Very important. I do know of a lady, Reverend Gladys Strome. She passed away probably in the last 15 years, not long ago. She would use a woven basket, and the woven basket was actually like a collection basket. You might find it at church. And so it definitely was open to the light, but she would simply take her magnetized scarf off of her shoulder, and it was actually a silk scarf that was see-through, quite interesting. So I still don't know how that's possible, but she was a powerful physical medium. She would place that scarf into the basket, put some crayons, put some, she loved colored pencils. That was her thing. That's all she used. She would place the colored pencils, place the 3x5 blank white index cards in there, and then she would fold the edges of the scarf over, and then she would carry the basket enter an altered state, walking through the church, delivering messages from your loved ones and your spirit guides. And people would say that they could hear the the pencils jumping around and clicking. And that was because she had so much psychic power that they were just lifting and moving. The pencils were probably riding the waves of the psychic energy. And so when that was taking place, they were dematerializing and rematerializing images and writings onto the cards in her basket. And for about 25 people, she'd be done in about 30 minutes. It didn't take long. So if you think about 25 minutes of people in the room, 25 minutes of precipitation taking place for about 25 people in the room, folks, that's 60 seconds per card to develop. Now, let me tell you this. One time, this was probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was at a seance with Reverend F. Reed Brown, who's the founder of our church denomination, the United Metaphysical Churches. And he demonstrated red light precipitation card development. So basically, we all would, hi Judy, good to see you. So we would sit in the room. We had the lights on, incredibly dim, the red light, no white light, okay? None of this overhead light that you can see here on me. But we had a very dim red light. We had a little rheostat attached to that red light, and that would keep the light very subdued. We would open this seance experience by saying the Lord's Prayer or a general prayer for the church and the world and the greater world of spirit. We stood in gratitude. We spoke gratitude into the spirit world, and we asked them to come near us for the process of precipitation. So after that was complete, we began to Om. Then we began to sing some songs, spiritualist campfire type songs. Now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of all the titles. The green bottle song, the beer bottle song, whatever that one is. God, talk about losing your mind. It's funny, when I'm in the flow of spirit and allowing spirit to come near, it's funny how it replaces my logical thinking mind and my free-flowing spiritual mind comes in. That's a very common phenomena, right? So anyway, I want to tell you, as the light started off, the red light was actually off in the beginning. You want to make sure it's off. That builds the power, that life force or the ectoplasm of the medium, the life force of the medium is extracted out very slowly, very gently by spirit into the room. And we had all of our cards. So again, we had blank white cards, right? They were laid out. They were actually laid out like you would spread cards, kind of like this. And they were literally laid out on a desk in the dark as we're singing and praying, oming. And then our minister, Reverend Brown, would begin to give messages to us and would talk to us and say, Kevin, your grandmother is here. Her name is XYZ. And she's very proud of this project. And he would describe the project that I was working on. She's helping you with it. She inspired you with it. God bless. She loves you. And off to the next one he would go. So we're sitting in the dark receiving these wonderful messages. And then he'd say, my guide is telling me we need to turn on the red light. So we're going to turn it on real dim. So we would turn that rheostat just ever so slightly to turn on the red light super, super dim. We still couldn't see each other, but we could see the red light was on. Okay. So we would continue oming and we would sing another song and he'd give more messages. Maybe by then it's about 20 or 30 minutes into the experience, right? The cards are still on the table. We can kind of see them laid out. We don't see anything in the darkness on the cards. And then about 45 minutes into that process, we hear him say, okay, they're telling me they're ready. They're ready to come into the physical. So he said, we can turn the rheostat up. So we turned the rheostat up ever so slightly. And as the light shifted, and as we're all standing and looking over the cards, literally every card instantly filled with something like this. I'm going to show you what I have. Something like this appeared. Or even something like this appeared. Okay, let's see if I can get that. I know it's not very bright, you guys. I'm sorry. But I just want to get it up there close to you so you can see it. Okay. The colors are stunning. Now, this was not one of the cards from that evening. This is just an example of a precipitated image and precipitated writing. Okay, because we have spirit card writing there on the front. And we have a precipitated image on the back. I can actually feel the wax and the coloring material fused onto this little card. Quite stunning. And so this is how it works. I'm going to go back to that card in a moment. But literally, we howled. You cannot imagine. Hey, Kev G, good to see you. You can't imagine how we all screamed and howled and laughed. And we were like, OMG. We freaking saw them literally materialize on the cards. All of them, all probably 20 cards all at once, instantly had an image on them or writing on them. And they were all perfectly laid out. So Spirit is not creating little hands. They're not picking up the pencils and drawing pretty little pictures. That's not how it works. They're actually dematerializing the pigment, taking it into the spirit world, into the ethers, and through thought control, they lay their thought back down in a rematerialization process onto these cards. Or, I don't have it handy, but actually onto silks. I have examples of spirit images on silk. They can do it on cloth, on your clothing. They can do it on the walls in your bedroom. I've heard stories of that. On your ceiling, they could produce these images and these writings and colors and symbols. So anyway, these images appeared, and that was the only time I've ever seen that. So that's an incredibly rare American style of precipitation that used to take place many years ago. And if I can get myself focused, I have one audio file that is about an hour long of that medium from about 25 or 30 years ago who demonstrated that type of seance at my church. It was in our archives. We found it on a cassette. I've cleaned it up. It'll be made available, I'm hoping, within a month for purchase and download from our church website, which is metaphysicalchapel.com. Okay. And I'll probably have it up in my website as well so that you guys can find it easily in the shopping cart. But just something to think about. You can listen to the whole process unfold. And that was amazing. Okay, let's go back to, this is how I store my spirit cards on my dresser, in my office, around my house. I actually went to Ross, Target. I went to, not Michael's, I went to TJ Maxx. Yep. And I basically am looking for a glass picture frame. This is incredibly heavy. It must be 2 pounds. Solid green glass. You can see that. And the picture basically goes right in that tiny little space there. See that? But I can see on my dresser as I put it in, I can see the whole image, right? And then if I want, I can turn it around and face the back towards me if I'm sitting at my desk or laying in bed reading a book. And maybe I'm inspired to look at the back for a week, and then I turn it around. This is a beautiful way of displaying your cards. And you can also go to, here's another fun tip. You can also go to Barnes and Nobles. Yes, there's actually bookstores that sell books. I know that's a novel idea for all you millennials out there. But for us old timers, we used to actually go pick up books. And at Barnes and Nobles, right? Kev G, what's a cassette tape? Yeah, you millennials. So anyway, you can go to Barnes and Nobles and you can get a little photo display journal or a book. And when you open it, it's a beautiful leather book. And it's got 3 little rings in it, and it's got little sheets of plastic paper that you perfectly can slip in these 3x5 spirit cards. You can actually travel with them. I take mine to shows and to lectures so that you guys can actually see them when I'm out on the road at different churches. That's a great way to store them. And I would recommend you do that, okay? Now, what questions do you guys have about precipitation that maybe I haven't covered an aspect? What would you do? How would you develop? Maybe things like that. What kind of pigments or coloring instruments should I use? What else could you ask? How long does it take to develop this form of precipitation? Anything like that. You guys ask your questions and I'll just keep talking. So about a month ago, I mentioned that at the development circle in Spain, Alicante, Spain, at the Soul to Soul group hosted by Annette Rogers, who's a wonderful physical medium and platform medium lover. And all of her students, this was the very first time it's ever happened for me. Every student in that group developed precipitation on a card. They had smudges, little smudges. They had little tiny little dots and scratches, lines. One lady had something that looked like a symbol was forming on her card. That is incredible because it usually takes weeks, if not months, just to get the most basic of scratches and dots and lines on your cards. So I was very proud of that group because they definitely have that ectoplasmic energy moving and gelling in their mediumship development circle. They're actually a healing circle, but I could feel that there was a lot of physical mediumship energy in their group already. So that's just a wonderful way to, a wonderful thing to share with you all, is that the more you step into this phenomenon, the more you talk about it, like I'm doing now, the more you write about it, which I've done. You can actually find some great articles of mine written about the phenomena at theothersidepress.org. The temperature does not play a part in the development. However, I would say, Lisa, that you definitely don't want a hot room, because the hotter the room, the more, hi Shannon, the hotter the room, the more you're going to sweat and be uncomfortable as a group of mediums or as sitters. And the more uncomfortable you are, the more you sweat. When you sweat, you dehydrate yourself, and that sweating actually reduces the extrusion or the available ectoplasm for spirit to work with, okay? That's why physical mediums who produce materializations of apports, of people materializing into the room, items are levitated and flown around the room, spirit lights, things like that. Those rooms need to be incredibly cold, because if the medium begins to get overheated and sweats, there will be less energy available. There will be less ectoplasm available for spirit to extract. So you need a cold room to keep that energy high, and also to keep the medium from becoming uncomfortable, okay? How long does it take to develop this form of mediumship, precipitation? Well, at the United Metaphysical Churches, some of my mentors, it took them two at the United Metaphysical Churches, it took them about 15 to 18 years just to get to this level on a consistent basis. Okay, you see that? So that took about 15 years to start getting names and Bible scriptures and things like that. Scott Fountain, yes, thank you for joining us. Yes, you actually do have a specific spirit guide devoted to your precipitation. Say, for instance, I'm writing a book, or I'm beginning to paint, or I'm beginning to produce jewelry, or I'm beginning to channel things. You actually need to begin calling on, as silly as it sounds, your jewelry precipitation guide. They're kind of like outer band guides, because they specialize in whatever your hobbies or your passions or your interests are. So, for instance, I have two spirit guides that I have identified that work with me in my precipitation. And one of them is Jasmine, and the other one is Nanette. And it's interesting because one will only appear around me whenever I'm with one medium, and the other one will only appear around me when I'm with the other medium. But I know both of these mediums are incredibly honest and accurate, and so I know that I have these two souls working with me, Jasmine and Nanette. And also, I would say, as far as taking time, one of my buddies, Reverend Justin Terry, up in Lake Worth at the United Metaphysical Church of the Palm Beaches, his development took him about 6.5 years, which is really unheard of. His phenomena came forward. I don't have an example handy, but basically, spirit writing with a few symbols appeared 6.5 years into his development. And then within about 3 or 4 months, boom, he had a full one side of a card, not two side like you just saw. He'll have a full one side of a card that produces faces, literally crayon drawings of your loved ones' faces, producing spiritual writings or scriptural references, names of your loved ones, signatures of your loved ones. That's really incredible to see signatures produced on a card that you can take to your local library of famous people you know, and the signatures will be almost identical. I've seen that happen. Or also signatures of your loved ones you recognize. That can happen. So what we're seeing is that in what I call this age of Aquarius, since the year 2000, or even just a few years before, a lot of mediums and seance groups that were communicating with spirit were beginning to hear of something called a new spiritual energy that was entering our planet. What does the year 2000 represent on our planet? The age of Aquarius, right? So this is the age where we step away from the age of Pisces, which was dominated by the symbol of the fish. What is the fish? Jesus, right? So the last 2,000 years, the planet has really been dominated, if you will, with the vibration of the Christ consciousness, the example of the greatest prophet that walked the planet, Jesus, the Christed one, right? And he was a brother born just like you and I. He was an incredibly advanced soul, and he could demonstrate all types of healing, psychic phenomena, mediumistic phenomena. He probably was the greatest example in the last 2,000 years of the greatest medium on earth, if you will. That'd be an interesting movie, wouldn't it? So anyway, if I get my hair long enough, maybe I'll play Jesus, right? I used to have long hair. I don't know if some of you remember that. So anyway, it definitely takes a long time to develop the phenomena. I'll tell you about me, and it's not easy to talk about this sometimes because it does feel like a thorn in my side, but everything in divine time. So starting around 2009 or 10, when I discovered this phenomena, I began to sit for my own development, and I began to get scratches and dots and lines on my cards, but not in a significant way, but just a minimal way. And Joey, yeah, I did with my Jesus sandals, right? Boy, I had long hair. So anyway, I think people call me Archangel Michael, right? Right, Joey? So where was I? So anyway, with the phenomena as it began for me, when I was ordained in 2013, I want you to think about this and the energy involved in what I'm discussing. I was doing my nursing full-time. I was running my church full-time. I was developing myself as much as I could, which wasn't a lot. It was, every few days, once or twice a week is about all I could do to attend a seance or to stand up and demonstrate mediumship and psychic messages, to do some healing, work at a fair. I didn't get a lot of work every day. And so I, in 2013, was ordained as a minister, right? So when that happened, I poured my spirit, listen to those words, poured myself into my church as the new senior minister of my community, because I wanted us to grow into an incredibly great church full of hundreds of people whose lives were being dramatically transformed and changed. And that month, my precipitation phenomena disappeared and has never returned. Now, it has come back once or twice in the last few months because of some interesting meditations of sitting in the power that I'm beginning to work with and develop. And I can feel a change in my energy, and I can feel a change in the precipitation phenomena that I've developed. So it's beginning to come back slowly, but because I expended a massive amount of my life force energy, which is my ectoplasm, in service to my church and also giving it to my patients in the hospital, my phenomena disappeared. My abilities retreated. They didn't disappear permanently, but they retreated. And Spirit has told me when I moaned and groaned, where's my gifts? Where's my precipitation? Why isn't it further along? They said, well, you've got to make a sacrifice. So everything we do everything we do involves energy. I get up and go to work. I go to the gym and work out. I go to the beach and replenish. I walk out in the parks locally and replenish myself. The types of foods that I eat a lot of fruits. I eat a lot of vegetables. I love vegetables. I try to stay away from meats, but I do consume what I call higher vibrational meat. So I will consume shrimp and crabs and fish. I'll consume chicken. I do love chicken, but it's a moderate level vibrational meat. I don't eat beef. I rarely eat pork. And beef is the densest, the lowest vibrational meats. And I would recommend all of you try to work that out of your diet, and you'll see a change in how you feel physically and also mentally. And as well, I find that when I eat pork, it's not as dense vibrationally, it's not as low vibration as beef, but it still affects me in my energy field in the same way. I feel strange after I consume pork chops or bacon, things like that. It doesn't sit well in my body for some reason. It doesn't make me sick physically, but it energetically makes me feel strange. So I can tell that I'm sensitive to it. The more spirit work you do, the more sensitive to foods, perfumes, different types of drinks you're going to become. and you'll begin to not crave alcohol. You'll begin to not crave soft drinks. You'll begin to not crave teas or coffees. You'll begin to shift out of it, which is quite interesting. Oh, I'm sorry if my soundtrack is breaking up. That's probably because I'm working on I'm working on increasing my upload speed of my stream. So apologies if anything is difficult to hear or understand. Do you ask your guide who you would like to see on your cards? Can you ask that or do you just get what they give you, or is the energy higher to develop this? Okay, so Sue, basically you can ask for anything because our intention does bring them forward. I have been in situations where me and a woman was standing in the kitchen. She started talking about her mother. She started talking about how her mother loved Easter. And what happened 15 minutes later in a seance? Her mother produced a full face of herself with glasses inside a strange, I'll just call it a strange round pink shape. And as we were talking afterwards, the daughter was crying, oh, my mom came on, she signed her name, that's her face. I said, wait a minute, that's an Easter egg. That's not a circle. And so literally Spirit was listening to us and literally gave us what we were talking about. So yes, you can ask Spirit for things, but try not to be adamant when you go into your seance experience of precipitation. Hey, Robert, good to see you. You don't want to demand of Spirit certain things. I want to hear from my grandmother, not my father, and I want to hear from my pet bird that died 10 years ago. Don't demand of Spirit. Be open to Spirit for who needs to come forward for your highest and best at that time. And they will produce exactly what you need. But when we put up our expectations to Spirit, you are literally putting up a force field, a barrier, if you will, that they must push through or muddle through to get what they need onto the cards. So you don't want to limit Spirit. You want to give Spirit free reign to produce whatever is in your highest and best. So that's what I would recommend you consider doing when you attend one of these precipitation gatherings. I hope to begin putting together some development circles this fall so that not only myself, but also some students can get together and develop. And I know, Tweety died. Woman and I use correct grammar. That's funny. Please use. Yes, that's true. Pardon the grammar. I'm speaking fast and not really thinking about my grammar. So apologies for that. But are there any other questions you guys would like me to focus on? I'm just going back through the chats to see if I've missed anything. Development, precipitation guides. You guys have been asking about colors. How long does it take? We answered that. Temperature of the room. Types of colors. I think, what colors are yours? Well, let's see. My colors, if you're asking about my Orc colors, I would say that I predominantly have purple, blue, and green in mine because it tends to be what I'm drawn to wearing, even though that's not what I'm wearing today. I wanted something to just pop against this black background. But I would say those are the colors that I'm drawn to in my jewelry, the gemstones. The colors, when I paint, I love those colors. So blue, green, and purple, if that's what you're asking. But if you're talking about colors for what colors do you use inside of your sacred container, well, as you can see, I have everything. I just have a muddle of all colors and all kinds of, I have ballpoint pens, I have Sharpies, I have markers, I have colored pencils, I have a regular writing pencil, I have a ballpoint pen, which I mentioned. I have pastels. Pastels is like a very oily and waxy material, okay? It actually is messy in your container, so don't be surprised. We've got our crayons. Don't be surprised. Let me tell you about an interesting phenomena I noticed in the #1 physical medium who demonstrates precipitation right now publicly. He's actually the only precipitation medium in the world who travels across the United States, predominantly from Indiana up into the New England states, occasionally to Santa Fe. Yes, if you're going to some of these locations, you can ask me and I'll put you in touch with him. His name is Reverend Hoyt Robinette. He's my dear, dear friend. He's my mentor. He is the person who changed my life 11 years ago by demonstrating his ability in precipitation. And it literally healed my mind and my spirit of a lot of turmoil. he healed my mind and my spirit of a lot of turmoil because I was fearing that my soul was being tarnished by these psychic negative forces, that my Christian upbringing was dominating my metaphysical new teachings. I was worried God was judging me, Satan was around me, demons were influencing me. I was so twisted I didn't really know where I was coming and going. But anyway, through his mediumship and through receiving one of these beautiful cards that I showed you earlier, let me show it again for those of you who have just joined. This is an example of a precipitated card. It's one of the artifacts that I've received. This is the actual back side of the card, okay? And this is actually one of my guides. And then the other side is this. See if you can see that, the spirit writing. These are names of my loved ones and my spirit guides. And so anyway, other than that, I would say somebody had asked about these, the cards, whether they are kept inside the basket or outside the basket. It depends how you're working. If you remember earlier in this discussion, I mentioned how Reverend F. Reed Brown actually fanned these out, right? Like playing cards, put them flat on a table, set the room to dark, and then also had a rheostat, a red light with a rheostat dimmer on it. And then through our prayers and our chants and our ohms and our spirit messages, eventually we began to raise the light and the images appeared. These are outside of this sacred container on a desk, okay? But we're all circled around it pretty close, and we're lending our energy to the process. So we are literally sharing our psychic energy, which is our ectoplasmic life force energy. It's being extracted by spirit. It's given to the process, and when the process is done, it literally recoils back into us, generally through your solar plexus, and all of your energy is returned. Some of your energy may be burned up in the process, and that's why you're going to feel tired and start yawning. It's nothing that will harm you, but it definitely is being used. When I work, I don't work with my cards outside of my box. I place them inside, right, along with all the colors. And you can do it one of two ways. You can put your colors in, and then your stack of cards on top. Then you want to close it up to create a dark seance environment, a dark seance room, right? And now you have a sacred container that is perfectly enclosed. It's dark on the inside. My ectoplasmic energy can go into this container and begin to work through spirit mind control, right? And then when I open this, I'm letting the steam out of the cooker, if you will. When I do this, there will be no more phenomena taking place because I literally have, in a way, poisoned or used up the psychic energy that was inside, and the phenomena will instantly stop and it will not progress. So that's something to think about. You don't want to open it too prematurely. Also, if you are sitting for development and you're using your container, yes, Sue, this is physical mediumship because it is using physical energies. Joey, you're asking, to what purpose does it benefit people? Well, it shows people that there is no death, that there is a continuity of life. That's a great question. Thank you. And it basically is evidence that your loved ones are still alive because they're drawing their faces, they're adding their signature to the cards. You're getting messages from spirit. I have seen people who received literally the colored version of the Stairway to Heaven that their daughter drew in pencil form on a sheet of paper that hangs today in their kitchen on the refrigerator, and spirit produced a colored version of what was done years ago, and what hangs in the kitchen produced it on a card, and now you've received literally a gift from spirit. There is life after life. That's right, Rev Kev. And this is a way for you to know that your loved ones are with you, and talk about how incredibly healing is that. You'll never need to fear that you're alone on this journey in life. You'll never need to feel that spirit doesn't listen to you. The angels don't listen to you. Your spirit guides and teachers, they're there to help you, and they're with you. And this phenomena demonstrates incredibly beautifully, and in no other way. I mean, there's really nothing else taking place out there where spirit is producing 100% of the work. This is not done by human hands, y'all. This is done by spirit. And it's true. When we go to spirit, we know we have a better understanding of the world all around us and the psychic processes all around us, because we are psychic beings. We are literally souls inhabiting bodies, right? Our souls are an expression, a vehicle that carries the spark of our eternal spirit, our greater spirit. And it's really incredible, the whole process. But this is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful forms of physical mediumship, where spirit is able to produce phenomena that I can take home and I can put on my bedside. I can put on my desk at work, and I can look at my loved one's picture, or I can look at their writing. I can look at their message to let me know I'm not alone. They're working to heal maybe the ailments of my shoulder, the surgery I just had, or the eye problem I have, the blood disease I have. I've seen messages of healing being written on these cards where people thought they were going blind, and they were praying and praying that one of their eyes would be healed, the sick eye. And then they were doing healing passes, if you will, on the eye. And what do you know, but a card fell out of the ethers in an Apport seance, and it touched the woman. When the lights came on, she picked it up. It was an Egyptian eye on the card, and it says, "Your prayers have been heard. You will be healed." And this eye matched exactly the eye that was going blind on this woman. And tell me that's not evidence. Tell me that spirit guides and angels and all that, well, we can't prove them, so we can't talk about them. That's a bunch of BS, to be quite honest. Because if a medium comes to me and tells me the name of my spirit guide and what projects I'm working on, that is evidence to me. And that is incredibly touching and healing to me. It lifts my spirit and inspires me to continue fighting the good fight of teaching the world that the world of spirit is all around us and ever supportive. So don't ever let a medium or a college of spiritualism tell you that we should not be discussing from the platform spirit guides, angels, and ascended masters. Yes, they exist. Can we prove them? No. But they definitely are incredibly healing evidence for those that receive them. And, every school to themselves. Pardon me. Every medium to themselves. I present mediumship in my way, and it works for me. I don't expect other schools or other mediums to work the way that I work. So don't ever let someone tell you that the way that you're working as a medium, a healer, or as a psychic, or even as a prophetic channel, that's not the appropriate way to work. You work with what resonates with you. What you're impassioned to do is exactly what you're meant to do. And maybe you have a gift or you have an ability that is so bizarre, but it works for you. I can't judge that. I can't talk down upon that. I can't gossip about that. But there are way too many people out there, I will say, that love to gossip about other people's healing and mediumship and psychic abilities, how they channel, how they do trance. And quite honestly, it's disgusting. And we as a people need to step back into the ethics of our mediumship, the ethics of our spiritual work. And we need to recognize that we're here not to judge people, but to lift people up and inspire them. It's already tough enough that we have the Christians and the non-spiritualists and the non-metaphysicians. We've got, the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, the Catholic faith. We've got all these people who are atheists and non-believers attacking us, people who don't believe what we believe. Why are we tearing each other down? We've got to be building the steps, those golden steps to eternity that lift our own kind up. We got to be supportive of each other and not talk about each other behind their backs. I'm all about co-creating events. I want to work with other mediums. I want to work with other healers. I want to work with other psychics. And I want to co-create events together because it's not about me. It's not about the teachings that Spirit has given me for these last 11, 12 years. I've been to over 300 seances. And quite honestly, I really don't appreciate the person with the name of Orange in the group. And you're pretty much done. Goodbye. I'm sorry, you guys, for the difficulty of that person in the chat room. But goodbye, bye Felicia, as they say. Anyway, now that it's just us metaphysicians, I wanted to say to you all that, just remember, do the best you can to support your, do unto others as, thank you, Kim. I appreciate that, sweetheart. There's always going to be haters. And I'll say this, I heard a kid say this the other day. I'm sorry, Joey, I know it took me a while. I thought they were being inappropriate, but that last comment just set me over the edge. So anyway, see, I just got distracted. Bear with me. Okay, so what I want to say is we just need to be doing what we can to push forward spiritualism in the highest and best way we can. We need to be building the stepping stones in our communities. I see that Reverend Joey is here. I see Kevin G., who's also a reverend and actually an exorcist in his community. He does a lot of charity work. We need to be stepping out in our communities, and we need to be serving our beliefs in metaphysics and spiritualism, whether it be spiritism, whatever it is, new thought, new age, whatever you focus on. Just find your passion and find a way to use your spiritual teachings to serve others in your community. That's what this work is all about. It's not about me hoarding my precipitation away in my archives, but it's about sharing it with other people. So I want to encourage you guys to really find a way to use your gifts in service to others in your community, because really that's how we manifest the world of spirit. That's how we manifest God on earth. And we become the hands and the feet and the smile and the words and the presence of love on earth, because God is love. And because of God's love and desire for that love, all of the universe came into manifestation. We are a part of that. We're an ingredient in the great cake mix, if you will, that makes up all of this universe. And without every single one of us, I would say to you that I exist for a reason. I woke up this morning, I took a breath. God has a purpose for me. My purpose was to get online and begin teaching and preaching and speaking and sharing, and I'm going to continue to do it. And I realize this is a wonderful, another avenue for me. If I can do this, you guys click a button, click the go button, and you do it too. Share your passions with other people. We're getting close to the end of the time, I believe, but I wanted to give you guys some time to start asking me some questions. And hey, Miss Tony. But I want you guys to ask me any more questions before we wrap it up in about 15 minutes. And I appreciate you guys being present. If you have not joined my channel on YouTube, I really, really encourage you to do that. I think I'm at 99 subscribers and it's killing me. I need one more subscriber. Go make a fake account and subscribe through that Gmail account, right? And get me to 100, because then I get to, what do they call it? I get to rename my channel. Oh, there's a funny word for it. I can't think of it. But basically, personalize. I get to personalize my channel. So that's what I'm trying to do, you guys. Go do that. And even if you, in another month, you unsubscribe, I don't mind. At least I get my personalized channel name, right? So that's what I'm doing. And I will tell you that, thank you, Ardelia. I really appreciate that. Again, my website is revkevinlee.com. I do have a shopping cart, a store on my website. I don't have the physical CDs here, but you can find my 2 CDs. One is specific to developing your precipitation mediumship, and it's called Precipitation Mediumship, Empowering Spirits Artistry. Okay? Great title. Now, these are $15 for digital download. You can also, yes, you can actually go to CD Baby. How'd you know that? That's pretty good. You can also go to iTunes and download it as well. But if you go to my website, actually, I get all the money, and I don't have to pay royalties out to those other companies. I will also say, Sue, no, I will not have any physical CDs because I'm not interested in selling physical CDs. I want everything to be done through digital download, right? So you can find that. And I also wanted to say that, bear with me as I deal with something. Yes, I had to put somebody in timeout, it says. Oh, gosh, that's funny. That person came back in the room. I got to figure that out. So anyway, that is a beautiful 100% channeled album, Precipitation Mediumship, in my website's store. And I channeled and wrote all of the lyrics. A friend of mine came and channeled all the music. I even hired somebody from Ecuador to produce a guitar element in one of the albums, one of the tracks. And then out of that, I decided to create a general market meditation album called Divine Oneness Meditations. So we have some beautiful white light meditation, I am presence, things like that. And also breathing through the chakras, which is very, very important to get your energy flowing in order to do your precipitation. You need that energy moving through the body. You need your chakras active and dynamic. That's what I would include and suggest that you all do. The name for the download is Rev, R-E-V, kevinlee.com. And actually, I'll put it here in the chat field. And you can go find the albums, which is in the shopping cart or the store of my website. You can go to iTunes, or you can go to CD Baby. You can go to Amazon and buy it as well, Amazon Music. So those are a few places to find both of my albums. The Precipitation Mediumship album to teach you how to develop this. You're going to meet your precipitation guide on that album. I'm going to guide you to bless your sacred container. I'm going to call forward your guide, and we're going to bless your container to get it ready. We're going to get you to work, do some etheric exercises to get your precipitation visualization and sensing abilities going. And then we're going to talk about my journey. How did this come to me? Why am I so passionate about it? How has it changed my life? And what will it do for you? So that's a absolutely beautiful album. I recommend you go and check it out. Share it with your friends. And really, that's pretty much about it. I don't see many more. Oh, I do see Fenton. Thank you for asking. Fenton Henriksen, thank you for joining. Can you comment on the energetic differences between spirit guides and angels? That's actually really easy. For anyone who is a healer, a psychic, or a medium, you will sense when spirit comes around you. And I will tell you that when say, for instance, you asked about spirit guides versus angels. Spirit guides have agreed by contract to stay closer to the third dimension of life, the human condition, right? So they are at the closest vibration within the fourth dimension, the spirit world. They're the closest to the earth, okay? They're not earthbound spirits, but they have lived as human lives. And they have probably had multiple lives on Earth, maybe other planets as well, but they've had physical conditions. So they're able to connect with us in a humanistic or physical way in the third dimension. So they will have somewhat of an elevated, very ethereal feel when you step into that energy, when you push your mind or your psychic energy into that. Also, if you're working with angels and angels come around you, angels have never had a human existence. Can they materialize and take human form? Yes. But they've never had really a life after life process in physical form. They have existed in an incredibly high dimension. Specifically what dimension, I don't know, because there's so many schools of thought, and I've heard multiple things from spirit, so nothing's clear. But they are much higher than our loved ones, and they're even higher than the ascended masters. So we have our loved ones in spirit. Above them is our human guides, our spirit guides, okay? So it's the ones we call our spirit teachers and whatnot. And actually what people call guardian angels are not necessarily angels. They're more spirit guides and protectors that work in that realm as a guide, okay, that protect and serve you. Then above the spirit guides, we have definitely at the height of them are your master teachers. They have a much higher vibration. And then above the master teachers, you have the ascended masters. Okay, these ascended masters are like Jesus, Buddha, Kuan Yin. It could be Babaji. It could be Moses, people like that. These are the ascended masters or the ascended prophets of the ancient scriptures. And above your ascended masters, you have beings that now no longer need to hold the physical form. And, Melchizedek, I have his picture in my bedroom. I love Lord Melchizedek. Thank you, Joey. He's one of our favorites. And anyway, you have the angelic realm. So they don't need to hold bodily form like we think they do. And also, they don't have wings, but they will present themselves visually or sensorially as though they do have some sort of an energetic wing presence, because because in old times, or even in modern times, we sense them floating in or flying in, being around us, or they're elevating and drifting away in vibration. So there's this symbology of wings. So that's why, of course, humans love birds and things that fly. We've always been fascinated with flying. So we've given these spiritual beings wings symbolically that they don't have. But it's still, there's nothing wrong with visualizing them in your mind or in your meditations. It doesn't hurt the process at all. You can imagine till you're happy in the face that they have wings, and they don't mind. They don't judge us. They understand the human condition. So that's really, Fenton, how you can sense the difference between spirit guides. Spirit guides are ethereal. They seem to feel closer to us and similar to us in vibration, but they're more ethereal. And angels are incredibly high vibration. So the vibration feels like it fills up the room, and it feels stronger and more enriched, more alive energetically, if you will. And it feels more pure, if that makes sense to you. Okay, hope that helps, Fenton. And I want to thank you, Fenton, for joining us. I don't recognize your names, but I'm happy you found us. So you guys, that really concludes this gathering. Check out my website. I'm also going to put in the chat field my church website. Maybe you want to check that out. We're going to start broadcasting my Sunday ministry, hopefully soon. I've got a volunteer interested. Oh, thank you. I always have, people always tell me they see blue around me, and they always tell me they see Archangel Michael. And when I had long hair, I really did look like Archangel Michael. Look at this face. Imagine with long hair, right? So anyway, blue, and plus I'm a speaker. If I'm speaking my truth, my throat chakra, which is the color blue, I'm speaking my truth. I'm sharing my passion. So definitely my blue is going to be strong. This is all about communication, and I'm focusing on becoming more and more of a public speaker. So blue is definitely around me. I love you guys. And, Gabrielle, love Gabrielle. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of this. Will your church services be streamed? Yes, Ardelia, they will very soon. I'm hoping within a month they will be streamed either on Facebook Live on our Facebook channel, which I will put on now, or they will be streamed on on the church's YouTube channel, which is Metaphysical Chapel of South Florida. Okay, but I'm going to put the church Facebook timeline address there for you guys. Much love to you. Appreciate Greyhawk's hug, Joan Adams, and many blessings. And we'll do more of these, okay? So stay in touch, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.